Would you say carnosine could be one of the most overlooked anti-aging molecules that really nobody's talking about?
Yeah, and everybody's going to be talking about it in the next few years. The problem is we've known about it for 100 years. It was found in like 1900. Studies were done on it like starting in the 50s as far as like sports performance recovery. But the problem that we've always run into and why nobody really takes it is because we have something called carnosinase or CN1. It's an enzyme that actually breaks it down it breaks it down orally. So orally, not very bioavailable. So they kind of just shelved it for the longest time because there was no real good way of raising carnosine levels in the bloodstream or in the tissues, in the target tissues. So carnosine is something that we have naturally. We make it, and it's very prevalent when we're younger than 20. So 10 years old, 20 teens. That's why you'll never see a 10-year-old go run all day and then say they're sore the next day because they have a lot of carnosine. So it's very high in tissues, mainly muscle tissue, brain, and heart. It's concentrated in those three. But as we get older, it starts to drop. And after 20, that's where the soreness, we start to drop it precipitously, but there's no real good way to raise it. Now, the way that some people have raised it in the past is kind of indirectly by taking beta-alanine, and that's in a lot of pre-workouts and things like that, pre and post-workouts. Beta-alanine, so L-carnosine is a dipeptide. It's basically an amino acid mix of L-histidine and beta-alanine. So a lot of times, kind of like with NAD, you take you take precursors like NMN or NR to raise NAD levels. This is kind of the same thing. You would take high doses of beta-alanine. The problem is that you would get, basically, if you hit a saturation dose, you would get neuropathies. You get these like tingling. The beta-alanine tingles is what a lot of people that take pre-workouts call it. And you get like these like ants, crawling on your head feeling and the tingles. But you'd get these kind of, weird neuropathies at too high a dose. And also you had to take orally months and months and months to hit tissue saturation. Well, what's really cool is with the new product that we've brought out to the public. We launched October 2nd, but it's called LactiGo, and it's a lactic acid buffer. So what it is we own the patent to the transdermal delivery system, which is Ethoderm. And by attaching the L-carnosine to the Ethoderm, it directly goes into the target tissue, and we've seen 100% muscle tissue saturation in 30 minutes. And that's verified by muscle biopsy. There's actually a good clinical study directly on LactiGo that was done by Dr. Beavens down in New Zealand. They did it on the All Blacks, which is a very famous 7 rugby's team. And they showed with these elite athletes, they showed immediate peak power output with just first application. So what that translates to is that, your everyday weekend warrior, whatever, we're seeing quicker responses with them. So basically in essence, overall, like, because I say, well, what is carnosine? Like what I tell people all the time is that overall carnosine buffers lactic acid. That's the main thing it does. It keeps lactic acid, which is what, causes the burning in your legs, the concrete feeling in your legs, the heavy legs. The higher your carnosine, the further and harder you can go. Okay. Carnosine is what your body used to have a lot of, like I kind of discussed, but now after 20, we tend to lose it a lot. But now with the LactiGo, we have and again, like when you said, nobody's heard of it. Well, because they've shelved it. There's never been a good way to deliver it. Now, because of this, it's a very unique delivery system, and we have a way to deliver it directly to the tissue. So what LactiGo is, it's a transdermal gel that you apply directly to the tissue you want to work, and it directly targets that muscle tissue immediately. And you ideally use it twice daily minimum, but before and after activity. But it is very efficient at raising carnosine levels. And the things that we're seeing, the feedback that we're seeing, it's pretty amazing. It has been quietly in the professional circles for the last like 5+ years. So the NHL, the National Hockey League, it's already written in their bylaws. They are required. It is the official performance recovery gel of the NHL. One of the co-owners is Eric Fair, who was a Stanley Cup winner. And so all of the NHL, they're required to provide it to all of the teams. The home team is required to provide it for the visiting team and vice versa. So that's actually written into their bylaws. But all of the top Olympic athletes, the last Paris Olympics, every single track and field athlete that won a medal was wearing LactiGo. The most recent Tour de France winner was wearing LactiGo. We have recently had a lot of teams sign on, and it's spreading with the NHL. Like I said, we just launched October 2nd, but we already have the San Francisco 49ers just signed on, Washington Commanders signed on. We have about 3 or 4 other NFL teams. They're signing on, Notre Dame football, BYU football. So it is just kind of just starting to spread. But yeah, it has been a pretty crazy ride just in like 2 months already. But
Man, you have packed in a lot of stuff right there. So I heard you right. This is a peptide that your body actually makes on its own. It falls as we get older,
yes,
but it's super critical in terms of muscle recovery and that kind of stuff. So you mentioned something. So in the old days, you worked out, you were told you take beta alanine and you can form, but getting it in your system and doing that throwing. But and it sounds pretty safe because you said what you just said. I've heard many professional athletes can take it and it's not looked as a performance enhancer or something that's wrong. But so carnosine's been there all along. It's just we don't realize the role it plays in terms of muscle recovery. Is that correct? Is that how I heard that?
Yeah. So initially, it's been around the professional circles because it's been proven. It's been proven, for performance recovery. I mean, it pushes off. It doesn't allow the buildup of hydrogen ions, which is what causes the lactic acid, the burn. So it buffers that lactic acid. So also the recovery piece, like you don't get DOMS, like you literally do not get delayed onset muscle soreness, or at least like really, really, really lower it. But what's super, super, super interesting is that it has a ton of other benefits. Now speaking real quick to that point, our product LactiGo, it already has the Informed Sport Choice seal, so it's already third-party tested for any banned substances. So any UIL, NCAA, NFL, any professional team can be using it without fear of it having any kind of banned substance because it's literally just carnosine and magnesium. So it is naturally occurring. We're just restoring the stores that we don't have anymore. So from an anti-aging longevity tool, that's where we're real excited about it because yes, we've known about the performance aspects of it, but now when you start looking, if you just go now and type in L-carnosine and heart, DNA, telomeres, wound healing, anti-aging longevity, there's 3,000 plus studies on L-carnosine. The problem was like I was saying, the delivery system. So in the past, in the studies, they were either done IV or intramuscular injections or things like that. And so, to do that's not feasible for a daily application. This is an easy, non-invasive transdermal that you apply to, times a day or before, after activity. But when we started looking into like the mechanisms, it is well studied. So the wound healing and skin repair from a medical aspect, I mean, there's a lot of studies on it, and there's a lot of medical wound healing applications that they've used L-carnosine, and it's been applied into a lot of these like wound healing for like diabetes, like diabetic ulcers, decubitus ulcers. It accelerates closure of like acute chronic diabetic pressure ulcers. Improves collagen deposition, so scar quality. So like there's studies on scar quality too. So if anybody just post-surgical scar, like they can put that transdermal gel on it and it speeds up the collagen deposition and kind of the healing. From an anti-aging longevity standpoint, that's like what I'm a geek about. And, I'm an anti-aging, just like you, like anti-aging longevity geek, anything that's going to help me live longer, better. That's what that's my wheelhouse, especially. That's what I love and what I really study. Is how do I help patients live longer, better, right? Because it's not just enough to extend their lifespan, which we can do already. We can already extend your lifespan, but health span is not being extended, and that's how long you live. Well, how long you live is lifespan. How long you live healthy is your health span. Okay, so from an anti-aging longevity standpoint, one of the main ways that we see, and it is well studied. Lots of peer-reviewed studies on it. Carnosine actually does one major thing, and it reduces what we call AGEs, anti-glycation end products. That is one of the prevailing theories now on aging. AGEs, it makes you age, easy way to remember it. So AGEs are what causes your skin to wrinkle. It's what causes your arteries to stiffen, some hardening of the arteries. But overall, that happens a lot. Advanced glycation end products are they're from having a high sugar diet, which we tend to have a lot of. There's a lot of metabolic dysfunction. So not addressing that medically, when you're talking about somebody with anti-aging and helping them live longer, like that's one of the starting points is they have to be metabolically fit. And that comes from the foundation of your diet, your nutrition, your activity. My basic 5 when a patient comes in is, they say, medicine likes to put itself right here, like we're primary. I'm like, no, it's here. It doesn't matter what medication or hormone or supplement I prescribe if the basics aren't being followed. And that is like your diet, nutrition, and hydration, activity, your sleep, emotional, spiritual, mental health, and then medication. Okay. Then hormones, but then supplements, because sometimes people come in right away and they're like, hey, what supplements should you take? I'm like, whoa, back up. Like, what's your diet like? So from the studies on reducing, the carnosine itself, going back to the carnosine, it reduces AGEs. Very well studied. Studies on it protecting telomeres. So telomeres are the little, strands on the end of the DNA. The way you can think about them is like little aglets, the little plastic coverings of your shoelaces. And it's been well established that the longer your telomeres, the longer you live. The shorter your telomeres, the shorter your lifespan. There is a lot of research now on telomerase activators for anti-aging. There's, one major one called TA65, and there's a lot of, research being done in that aspect. But telomeres, like there's a lot of studies on carnosine, protecting telomeres, extending lifespan. There's animal and a lot of human studies on improving skin elasticity, going back into the healing, but skin elasticity and appearance in humans. So Lancome tried to buy out LactiGo last year for $50 million, and they turned them down because Lancome wanted it for cosmetics because they saw the ability of it to help with appearance. From a brain and health, again, one of the things that we want to make sure of as we age is your cognition, right? Because like, who cares if you're living at 80, 90 and you don't know who you are? So cognitive health is another very important piece as we get older, especially now with so much dementia and Alzheimer's and neurodegenerative diseases. So it is very, very, very neuroprotective. Carnosine is. It improves cognition and like MCI and mild cognitive impairment and even autism. There's studies on carnosine improving autism. And also, why? Because it reduces brain glycation and oxidative stress in the brain. We can go on with eye health.
No, that's you. I mean, it sounds like a wonder molecule. And so you said a couple of things. I think about it in terms of patients we work with every day. Like you mentioned, one of the things is movement. And as people get older, movement goes away. But sometimes I feel like people avoid movement because they know if they are active, even if they just go work in their yard all weekend, come Monday morning, they can't get out of bed. And that's that bad. It sounds like this type of molecule and this product, this LactiGo with this carnosine, is something that can actually help make that fear of, oh my gosh, I can't get out of bed. Because you're right. As we get older, if we don't move, everything falls apart. Well, you know that right as well as me. So is that that's how this product could fit into that type of person that needs that recovery, that their fear of recovery goes away? That's like a prime molecule for this, right? Product to use.
And like I said, initially, because of the performance benefits that we see, we thought it was athletes and people, and yes, like we have CrossFit athletes and High Rocks athletes and all the, NFL athletes, they're all using it and improving their performance. But the biggest group of people that we're seeing give us feedback are your 40, 50-year-old, 60-year-old people that they just don't want to hurt. They tried to start going to the gym and, had one this morning. She's like, oh, I hurt my elbow. No, I can't do anything upper body. And I'm going to see the specialist for my shoulder. And that's the thing is, it's like injury as we get older is what's going to prevent us from continuing to move. So using it as just a tool to kind of help reduce inflammation, reduce pain. Like there's a study on it reducing an inflammasome called NLRP3, which is kind of the first step in the inflammasome, cascade. So yeah, I really look at it as, they call it the longevity molecule, when you start looking at it. But it is just a great tool, non-invasive. Here's the other thing is, you and I both know this, people end up getting pill fatigue. Like after a while, they're just like, I'm on 10, 15 pills. And, I thought, I was going to be on medication, but I'm on 10 to 15 different supplements. And they get, as dedicated as they are, they get tired and they get pill fatigue. This is just not another pill, another drink. It's literally topical. And so anything that's going to get sore, like you, again, working in the garden, walking, anything, you can put it on before and it actually will buffer. It actually helps. It's not a pain gel, but it helps with pain. So that's what's really interesting, is that because of the lowering of the inflammation and inflammatory markers, like it actually like helps people with pain. So that's what's really, really cool. The way we even came into existence, and I'll just throw this in real quick, just so you know, is I was approached with this as I am, just like you. I'm approached all the time, and I will say, hey, let me look into it. And so I was approached with this about a year ago, and I was like, man, it looks pretty solid. It looks pretty solid. But there was no game plan to kind of move it forward, bring it out to people, bring it out to the public. So about 3-4 months ago, I had a patient who's been a longtime patient of mine, who's now become a very close friend. And he has been seeing me for years and years for hormone therapy, but he had throat cancer. And he had radiation and basically got rid of the throat cancer. The radiation, in essence, kind of fused and melted his vertebrae. So he basically like can't turn. He's got a very stiff neck, can't sleep because he's lost curvature of the neck. And he was here to see me that day specifically because he's like, I'm done. He says, I have 8 or 9 out of 10 pain every day. He goes, I can't sleep. Do you have anything for me? I can't keep going like this. It's affecting my health. And I said, well, I have this gel. Like, I kind of explained what it did. And so I gave it to him. Not thinking, I'm thinking I knew it was going to work, but he texts me the next morning. He says, what's in this stuff? He says, 5 minutes after putting it on, he says, all my pain was gone. I slept through the night for the first time in over a year. And then the next thing is what got me. He says, then do you have the contact info for the CEO? Like, how can I get involved with the company? And so when I started digging into it, I always knew that he was wealthy, but I didn't know that he was uber wealthy. He was like private jet wealthy, like because he's very unassuming, very, very, very faith-filled, kingdom-minded guy. Just treats people super kind, but comes in, just real, he's one of these you could never tell that he was wealthy, right? So he goes. So I said, sure. So I connected him with him, and the CEO texted me later that day, and he says, thanks for the intro, great guy. I think we found our missing piece, and that's all I got. Right. 2 days later, he texts me back, and he says, so I'm no longer retired. He says, I paid off all their debts and I am like now the largest investor and I'm going to take this like company to the world. And I was just like, and that was just from a sharing. Well, come to find out, he has built multi-billion-dollar companies and is the guy but it changed his life. And he says, look, I feel like I have a moral obligation now to take this to the masses and to help as many people as I can. And that's what he's done, literally. And we launched it 2 months ago, and it is just like taken off. And that's the origin of it. But it's just pretty cool.
That's pretty amazing. And that's a classic example of not lifespan, but health span, because people want to be well longer. We are living longer. It's just a function of what medicine's happening. But and I always say, well, I've heard it said from somebody else, if you don't have movement and you don't have your memory and you don't have eyesight as you get older, like what's the point of living older? Because if you don't have those 3 essential things, life's pretty miserable.
Absolutely.
So the Pharmacist, to me, I took a deep dive in this. And so the thing that I found most impressive that I think, from my understanding, that does it really eliminates oxidative stress. Yes. I mean, that's one of the things that it really does. And we know, especially if you're going to work out a lot, you have oxidative stress. But if you're going to age, you have oxidative stress. But if you're going to eat like crud and have bad blood sugars, you're going to have oxidative stress. To me, I see that's one of the powerful ways that this works. Do you kind of see that the same way?
Absolutely. So we, from a medical standpoint, I mean, we see like the studies are there. So I'm just like talking about the studies, anecdotally, like what we're seeing with patients is like their hashtag is just try it, because like we could talk and talk and talk for hours on this stuff, but until somebody tries it and puts it on and has that life-changing, effect, you that's the ultimate testimony, right? So, from a a clinical standpoint, there's studies on carnosine with diabetes. I'm seeing it with neuropathies, improve neuropathies. I'm seeing it improve restless leg syndrome. So idiopathic, like just intractable restless legs, and they're on gabapentin and they're on all kinds of stuff, and nothing can help it. And they put this on for 1 or 2 nights and goes away. They're cramping. From a cardiovascular standpoint, there's cardiovascular protection studies on it reducing carnosine, reducing LDL. Going back to oxidation, it reduces LDL oxidation because, again, it's not LDL as an independent variable that like as much as these cardiologists want to say LDL is an independent variable. That no, it is a lot more nuanced than that, and it's not LDL, it's oxidized LDL. And one of the things that carnosine actually has been shown in studies to do is reduce LDL oxidation, which improves endothelial function. In heart failure, it lowers, it has been shown to lower blood pressure slightly. There's even, and be careful when we say the C word, there are anti-cancer studies. There's a lot of potential preclinical studies showing where it inhibits cancer cell glycolysis, or the Warburg effect. And enhances chemotherapy effects. And there's been, a few models that kind of demonstrate that.
Well, it makes good sense. You said it. It works on glycation. It works on oxidative stress. I mean, and those drive so many other different disease processes. So it definitely makes good sense that it would be beneficial for that. One of the things as a pharmacist I find interesting, I notice it's paired with magnesium in that product. And so tell me a little bit about that aspect of things, because obviously I do a lot of social media and magnesium is a hot topic. I mean, it's like tens of millions of views. Tell me why magnesium's in there.
Well, it's more of what we've seen is within the tissues. That was the magnesium was more of the magic is really from the carnosine. The magnesium is just like a force multiplier, because it causes the relaxation. It's the ultimate chill pill. It's the original chill pill. The majority of people today have magnesium deficiency, and that's just from it lacking from the diet. So people say, well, why do we all have to take it now? Is because there's a lot of things that deplete magnesium, right? So stress depletes magnesium. Okay. And who doesn't have stress? Coffee depletes magnesium. And that's not to say that coffee is bad, but if you're doing things that are depleting magnesium, it's very important and you're not getting it in the diet like we used to, because our food is nutritionally, devoid. Like it really is. Like people say, well, why do I need to take, if you eat healthy, you don't need to take a multivitamin. I strongly disagree. Maybe 50 years ago, when we had like nutrient rich, local sourced food, and now your food's coming from 1,500 miles away, and picked early before it's had time to absorb anything. So most people are deficient in magnesium. And so it's again, because of the ethoderm, you're getting because it's, again, going back to everything, and this as a pharmacist, it's not what you take, it's what you absorb. That's from an oral standpoint, that's from an injection, that's from any standpoint. It is what you absorb. So magnesium, what we're seeing is it has a really amazing, like, calming, chilling effect on the muscle tissue. And because, again, going back to what I talked about, that CN1, that enzyme carnosinase, okay, it's very, very, very prevalent in our bloodstream and in the serum, but there is no CN1 in tissue, in skin, in muscle, in ligament, because that's what allows it to work. But because the magnesium is coupled with that ethoderm, you get a much, much, much higher uptake, and you get a stronger delivery of the magnesium. Now, it depends on also what magnesium you get. This, like, there's a ton of different magnesiums. Like, I take a magnesium 3 and 8 in the morning for brain function. I take more glycinate, a mix, like glycinate, citrate, bisglycinate at bedtime, more relaxing. This one is more of a mix. So it's more of the relaxing, the glycinate, bisglycinate mix. in the LactiGo. So it is very, very, it's just an adjunct. If it didn't have it in there, it wouldn't make a huge difference, but with it in there, it's synergistic.
Yeah, it's 1 + 1 = 3. So, and you mentioned something too about the carnosinase, and I was looking at that going into it. That's one of the product that makes this unique. Where you're right, you can take all the beta alanine you need and whatever else, and make sure you get plenty of amino acids to build this. But it is just easier just to put it on topically, and I think that's what your studies show. It's the topical application that really provides the benefit because it gets to that muscle tissue, and that's really where it does its work. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yes, and the more you apply it, the more you build up. So a lot of people are saying, well, do I just use it before I train? I'm like, no, minimum AM, PM. So one of our primary guys, our chief science officer, okay, his name is Chad Macias. Y'all can look him up. He's a two-sport Olympic athlete, won a gold medal in boxing, but he has a documented IQ level higher than Einstein's. The guy is a genius, and he's just a great guy, but literally just a genius. And he's one of our formulators. He is out in San Diego right now. He works directly with the Navy SEALs. So the Navy SEALs are using the LactiGo out in Coronado during training, like AM, PM. They're required to put it on because he's look, I need to keep my warfighters going. He says it's a very real scenario where they may have to run 10K with a backpack and then get in a firefight. He goes, they need to be ready. And he said, so a lot of our top warfighters, tip of the spear guys are using the LactiGo already. He's like I said, he works directly with them, but a lot of the science and just the formulation is from him and our head of R&D, which is Tim Sharp, which is he's another amazing guy. Like they're both just resumes and is just amazing. So Tim Sharp is the head of R&D and Chad Macias is our chief science officer, and they're amazing guys. So
that's cool. So this product, I think about the person, the guy that's in his 40s, 50s, and 60s trying to maintain muscle. I think that about the perimenopausal, menopausal woman, that nowadays we talk about that group so much because they lose so much muscle. We're seeing a lot of those women even get sarcopenic as they get older just because their muscle. And you know as well as me, people have a hard time, maintaining weight if they don't have enough muscle. How does this product fit into that lady? What are the other things she needs to pair this type of product with to make sure she's metabolically fit and age better, not just age at all?
Gotcha. Hormones, plain and simple. So thankfully the recent black box warning removals from testosterone last couple of years, and then estrogen just recently, they kind of showed what we've been saying for 20 years, is that hormones are vital, and hormones are going to dictate how you age. Period. They're kind of the foundation of the house. Carnosine is again, it's very effective, but it's kind of up here. It's a force multiplier. It's going to help, but not if they come in and they're completely, menopausal, have zero estrogen, zero testosterone. If the men come in and they have andropause, just like women have menopause, men have andropause. Very well documented now, and also starting to see it in younger and younger men. I get the question all the time. So why is that? We don't know. There's no smoking gun. There's a lot of theories. There's a big study called the MMass study that kind of shows, you can see it visually. You can see through the years, 87, 89, 2007 on, and you can see the depletion. We've been seeing it indirectly with the decline in fertility in men, indirectly, but the testosterone has been dropping, and it's been showing up earlier and earlier. I mean, it's not crazy to have some of these guys come in and they're in their 20s. Now, it could be circadian rhythm disorder. Like I see in some of these guys that have like either sleep apnea or they have shift work disorder. They're working nights and days and nights and days. Now, the problem with that we've seen is that I have guys that have quit their jobs. I have it not because, of what we recommended, but just situational, and it doesn't fix their testosterone. So, and again, it's chicken or the egg kind of thing. But what another phenomenon we're seeing is low T fathers are bearing low T sons, are bearing low T sons. So like genetically, there's theories on EMFs and Wi-Fi. There's theories on our food, our environment, our water supply. I mean, so it is what it is, and and maintaining hormones, especially in the 40, 50-year-old, is going to be foundational. So replenishing hormones properly, if and when needed, that's one of the foundations of longevity. And again, that's one of the main things that's going to prevent age-related sarcopenia. Because as you said it earlier, like muscle mass is our metabolic currency, period. The more muscle mass you have, you see, the problem that's happened in the past is that unfortunately we made muscle all about the aesthetics, right? And so it's easy for people to go, well, I don't need to look like a model. I don't need to look like a body. It's not about the way you look. If you do not have a good amount of muscle mass, you are not going to be healthy. You're not going to burn blood sugar as well. You're not going to be as metabolically healthy or fit, and you're going to age more rapidly. But the biggest thing is muscle mass. One of the single best, indicators of longevity is grip strength. And that has actually gone down. They've been studies and they've shown where the grip strength of men today is like 70% less of what it was in men in the 70s, and not much higher than women. And instead of going, ooh, there's a problem, they lowered the norms, instead of going, hey, we see there's a problem. So, yes, we're seeing now age-related sarcopenia is a very real thing, and it's going to happen whether we try it, whether we want it to or not. But the lack of hormones leads to a lot of other downstream effects. We don't process or have as much MPS or muscle protein synthesis without an adequate amount of hormones or testosterone. You have more satellite cells around your muscles. You take up protein more if you have an adequate amount of hormones. So it is not just, hey, you're low on hormones, here's hormones. It has to be done in the proper manner, in the proper form. And that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing. Now, unfortunately, like you and I were talking about earlier, I'm already seeing that because of the black box warning. There's people coming in, and unfortunately, what the black box removal is going to lead to is now a lot of doctors, a lot of providers rushing out to start giving patients hormones again and giving them the wrong form. And I'm seeing that in my office. I'm sure you're seeing that at the pharmacy. They're doing, Premarin again, which no, or they're doing, this is a big one, progestins, thinking it's the same thing as progesterone, and it is not. One of the biggest things that they saw in the Women's Health Initiative study was that it wasn't even, they had the Prempro arm and the Premarin arm, and they saw the higher, increases in the progestin arm, which was in the Prempro arm. And they've gone back and said, if we had given them, natural micronized progesterone rather than progestins, they may not have seen the cancer increases. But yeah, that was a really, really interesting, if you look at the history, like that was one of the only first studies that the media came out with the headline before the study was even published. And once that cat was out of the bag, it was a bad deal that, because the media came out and says hormones cause cancer. And once that was out, it was hard to reel that back in. And now anybody you talk to, you still have doctors, providers, patients coming in going, oh, I'm really worried about cancer because it's still, the prevailing theme.
Yeah. And the sad thing is that's what's taught in schools. That's part of the problem right now, because hormones, you got a whole, probably 2 generations of, at least a generation of medical providers that have never been taught hormones because you couldn't give them, that now need to give them, that now aren't trained, and that has to be done right. So I hear you on that. Like you were preaching to the choir with that. We've seen some crazy stuff already as far as that goes. So I know you work with a lot of elite athletes, but you work with everyday Joes like me. I mean, that are, 40, 50-year-old guys and women that are just, like you said, trying to have a better health span as far as that goes. So you mentioned, like you said, there's supplements like LactiGo that can help with muscle recovery. We can optimize and get hormones right. What are the other things that you like to maximize, especially with those that are like, I'm not gonna lie, like I ran a half marathon for the first time about a month and a half ago, and I was freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. And believe it or not, all the health things I've been doing surprised me. I actually did better than I thought. But what are the other things you like to pair with, like you said, hormones, something like LactiGo, to make sure somebody can peak performance to build muscle as they get older like you said, in their 40s and 50s? What are the other things you like to work on?
Foundationally, protein intake. I mean, when you talk to the patient about like their diet, if I ask them, what's your protein intake? Like 99% of the time, they're like, I don't know. I have no idea. And so maximizing protein intake, and not just through, primarily through diet, right? But also supplementation with like essential amino acids. Okay. A lot of people, branched chain aminos got real popular, but that's only 3. It's only leucine, isoleucine, and valine. You're missing the other 6. Right. So essential amino acids are huge because they kind of give you all the building blocks without the caloric burden of, say, like a whey protein. And as far as protein, it's any way, shape, or form. If they can tolerate whey, awesome. Some people do a little bit better with plant-based if they have like bloating from whey. I like an isolated whey if they have. Sometimes they can do better with an iso whey because it has the protein, some of the protein removed that causes the bloating. But then beyond that, there's a lot of really cool, there's a lot of cool, and that is probably grounds for a whole other podcast maybe, but like peptides are huge and they're super popular right now, but just like with everything else, it's like kind of the Wild Wild West, and there's stuff that is super popular on social media, but doesn't have really real world validity. And so peptides work, but they have to be proper, and they have to be properly sourced. The other ones are going to be like, I'm a big fan of urolithin A. Urolithin A has some great studies on it. I'm really adamant, especially at beyond 40, for sure. By beyond 50, one of the products I recommend to everybody is MitoPure. It has urolithin A in it, and a lot of good studies on preventing age-related sarcopenia, like maintaining muscle mass. It's also really, really great for anybody like on a GLP-1, which again, protein for anybody on a GLP-1 GIP works really, really well. And again, like we talked about this earlier, they work really well, but you still have to eat well. You still have to do all the other things. You still have to exercise and do resistance training. But creatine is another foundational one. I know it's popular, but creatine, it is the most studied. The reason that, they say it's everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere because it is the most studied supplement probably in the history of the world. And the studies are now very clear on like cognitive function. I recommend anywhere from, 10 grams daily, 10 plus grams daily for men, and 5 to 10 grams for women. But that is another really good a supplement that's easily accessible. Creatine monohydrate. Can you get a little bit better, sciencey absorption, with some of the other alkaline stuff? Yeah. But I mean, creatine monohydrate is a creatine monohydrate for the most part. There's collagen is super hot, but collagen is just another protein. I mean, you can actually get increased collagen from taking in a lot of protein and amino acids, so it's not bad, but in and of itself, is it good? I mean, jury's out, but we could go and it just depends. It depends what they're compromised in, but those are kind of the foundational ones. Those are my real big ones. Vitamin D, the foundational supplements, like vitamin D, the things people are deficient in.
No, you got it. And you mentioned DOMs earlier. Like me, my big thing has always been like omega-3s. So I can just see how stacking all these things along with, like you said, optimizing hormones, better sleep. And you talked about better stress, reducing stress, helping with diet. I mean, all that goes such a long way in overall helping. This has been great because I think, like you said, you've talked about something new. We've talked about the old, but we talked about how it all comes together to create better health. So Willie, if people want to learn more about you and LactiGo, where do they go find that information?
So we have a website called the carnosinelab.com, and they can go there. Our website, our office website is just corehealthtx.com. But basically we're on, Core Health and Wellness, at Facebook and Instagram. We need to get better about posting more. I'm about to start ramping that at the beginning of the year. It's just, we've been super, hair on fire, with this LactiGo. But yeah, I mean, if you're menopausal, premenopausal, perimenopausal, or if you're 40 plus years old and having fatigue and brain fog and low libido and things like that, really, really need to get hormones optimized and checked. And, we kind of like cover the whole gamut, when it comes, my consults and this I sit with a patient. I have an hour-long consult with a patient where we go over everything. We go over their diet, we go over their lifestyle, we go over their labs, and what they may need. And we formulate a very individualized treatment plan from that. But hormones are extremely important. And I'm excited about this because it is just fit right in to people that just hurt, after 50, you can, we joke about you can just go to bed and you wake up hurt, something something hurts and you didn't even do anything. You're like, man, did somebody beat me up in the middle of the night? Something hurts.
You just got up to when you go to the bathroom. You wake up the next morning man, what happened? I hear you.
Yeah, but LactiGo has been amazing for that. And I'm really looking forward to what it does this next, coming year, the next couple of years. So.
Wow. This has been an incredible conversation. I want to thank you because we've kind of really talked about the intersection between performance, metabolism, aging, recovery, and maybe in a way people have never heard about. And especially, like you said, the new LactiGo product as far as that goes. And so I'm looking forward to learn more about it and recommend it to patients and kind of see what all is going on. But like you said, I just want to thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you joining me. And like you said, if you know others out there that are struggling, like you said, that are trying to work out, be more active, looking for muscle recovery things, make sure that you like and share this podcast. I think others will find it helpful, but just really super grateful. And as always, I appreciate you joining me, Willie, and really kind of talking about really the truth, how the body works. And like you said, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Steve.
You're welcome. Have a great day.